Only 4 in 10 people trust their government. 4 in 10. Not in one country, worldwide. And here's the thing, we haven't stopped believing in democracy. We still believe in the idea. What we've lost is faith in the institutions that run it. What if the problem isn't who governs, but how decisions get made? Think about the last time a small group had to decide something. 4 friends choosing a restaurant. A team picking a date for an event. In small groups, decisions happen naturally. Everyone says what they think. You quickly see where people agree and where they don't. No vote needed, you just know. Now imagine that same conversation with 10,000 people, or 1 million. Suddenly, no one can hear anyone. Opinions get lost, nuance disappears. So what do? We create hierarchies, we elect representatives, we form committees, we delegate. Not because it's the best solution, but because it's the only one we know how to scale. And the price is enormous. Most people's opinions, knowledge, and actual preferences never make it to the top. They get lost along the way. To make this concrete, picture an apartment building. 12 families under one roof. They need to decide whether to fix the elevator, repaint the facade, and how much each family can afford. Everyone meets in the community room. Each family shares their view. By the end, you have a pretty good sense of where everyone stands. Now imagine that building has 1,000 floors, 1,000 families. They don't fit in a room anymore, so they elect a building president, a secretary, a board. 1,000 families delegate, and it works, sort of. But the family on floor 847 dealing with a chronic leak can never get their issue to the board, and the family on floor 203 with a brilliant idea to cut costs has no channel to be heard. The problem isn't that the board is bad. The problem is that no small group can process all the information from a large group. It's an information bottleneck. And it's the exact same bottleneck that plagues democracy, corporations, and every human organization. But what if there were a way for all 1,000 families to speak their minds, and for a system to automatically calculate where they agree? This is where TAU comes in, and the idea starts with something called an opinion map. Back to our building. Imagine that instead of everyone meeting in a room, each family writes down their views in a language a machine can understand. Not programming code, just clear rules. We want the elevator fixed. We don't want to spend more than $200 a month. The facade can wait a year. Now imagine a system reads all those opinions, all 1,000, and generates a map. Not a geographic map, a logical map, where you can see at a glance which opinions most people share, where contradictions exist, which clusters think alike. In a group of 4, you get 4 opinions, but in a group of 1 million, there aren't 1 million different views. There are patterns, clusters, agreements nobody knew existed because they'd never been calculated, and the system doesn't invent anything, doesn't interpret, doesn't guess. It simply computes the logical relationships between what each person actually said. But an opinion map isn't enough. Knowing that 60% want the elevator fixed doesn't solve anything if you can't turn that into action. And here's what makes TAU different from a survey or a voting system. In TAU, consensus doesn't mean the option with the most votes. Consensus is the set of statements everyone agrees on simultaneously. It's the logical intersection of all opinions. Think of it this way. You say, fix the elevator, budget under 200. Your neighbour says, fix the elevator, budget under 300. The consensus is, fix the elevator with a budget of 200. That's what both of you accept without conflict. With 1,000 opinions, the system calculates that intersection automatically. The result is a set of rules that everyone agrees with, not the majority, everyone, and those rules become the actual code that governs the network. But there's something even deeper, because in any governance system, the hardest question isn't what are the rules, it's how do we change the rules? In a democracy, amending the constitution is a long, rigid process. In a company, changing the bylaws requires special majorities, and in most blockchains, changing the protocol sparks civil wars that sometimes split the network in two. TAU has a concept for this. They call it change about change. The rules for how rules change are also decided by the users, and they can also change. It's like a constitution that defines how to modify itself, and that definition can also be modified. Sounds like a paradox, but the mathematical logic TAU uses is specifically designed to handle self-reference without falling into contradictions. That's one of the hardest breakthroughs the team has achieved, solving a problem that's been open in formal logic for decades. Remember the 1,000-floor building? In traditional governance, someone at the top decides for everyone below. In TAUnet, there is no top or bottom. There are 1,000 families saying what they think, and a network that calculates the rules from what they all share. Block by block, each block on the blockchain contains the current rules, and the next block contains the new rules, synthesized from the updated collective will. The network isn't static, it evolves, like a living organism adapting to the needs of all its members. Now, the honesty moment. What I've just described is extraordinary if it works at scale. But let's be clear, nobody has ever governed a network of millions using formal logic. There's no precedent for this, and even if the technology works perfectly, there's a question no code can answer. Will people actually participate? We have centuries of representative democracy. We're used to delegating, going from I vote and forget to I express my views precisely and keep them updated. That's a massive cultural shift. And there's a real barrier. For this to work, people need to express their ideas in a language machines can process logically. Making that accessible to everyone, not just experts, is one of the biggest open challenges of this approach. The mathematical foundation exists. The theoretical groundwork is published and proven. But the distance between a proven idea and an adopted idea, that distance has swallowed many brilliant projects throughout history. 4 in 10. That was the number. Most of the world doesn't trust how the decisions that affect their lives get made. And the usual answer is to look for better leaders, better parties, better representatives. Maybe the right answer is different. Maybe it's asking whether we truly need someone to decide for us. When technology could allow the rules to be written directly from what everyone thinks.